right, thank you very much. And yes, I am quite new, so all of this I'm framing in kind of the hypothetical. I just thought it would be good to kind of get on and introduce a little bit of what my plans are for setting up a lab here at UD. So basically my work previously and ongoing has been looking at tendons and ligaments, so really focusing on those passive soft tissues in the orthopedic systems and using both structural and functional or biomechanical tools to investigate how they work in healthy cases as well as in some abnormal cases, whether that's injury, recovery, regeneration, anything along those lines. And so today what I'm just going to do is step through a few examples of kind of projects where I see different tools that I tend to use working into this space and actually figuring out how we can address different issues with tendons and ligaments. So ways that I plan to integrate all of these biomechanical and structural analyses include looking at the structure-function relationships and doing analyses on healthy musculoskeletal soft tissues, looking at assessments of local to global relationships and tissue mechanics around things like defects, so thinking about scar tissue and seeing how the bulk tissue behavior relates to very local measurements of tissues. And then doing characterization in actual human subjects or human patients, looking at postoperative recovery in populations such as ACL reconstructed subjects. So just to expand a little bit on what that might actually look like, the first thing I talked about was looking at healthy tissues. So the IT band, or the iliotibial band, is a tract of soft tissue that runs along the outside of your thigh. And so this actually connects muscles up about the hip down to the bony attachments at the knee. And relatively little is known about the IT band as it stands right now. And so there's a lot of opportunity to learn both about how this tissue is actually developed and what it functions as well as figuring out how we can better inform clinical decisions, as well as some of the musculoskeletal models that integrate a really basic form of an IT band at the moment. So in my postdoc research at the University of Wisconsin, I was actually working with a group that designed and builds shear wave tensiometers. So these are a wearable device that is sketched up here on the screen. And basically what it consists of is a mechanical tapper that would be downstream on the tendon ligament IT band, as it were here. And then a pair of accelerometers that lay on the surface of the skin upstream on the tendon. And what we can do with this is measure the speed that shear waves actually travel through these tissues, and that serves as a proxy for the amount of load that is going through the tissue. So what we've been able to do in a couple of pilot tests, and what I'm planning to expand on here at UD, is actually measuring the loading patterns within the IT band during walking. So looking across a gait cycle, we can see increased behavior in the IT band during stance, and then some behavior during swing as well. And then we compared that to running, where we got much higher loads in the IT band during early stance, as well as a little pickup at the start of swing when you're actually initiating that hip kick through. So that's one example of how I would be looking at healthy tissues. Something else that I mentioned was looking at the global impacts of tissue defects. So with that, we're maybe thinking about surgical cases where we would have something like a tissue resection to deal with, in this case, Osgood-Schlatters disease. And so what we can do is combine both computational models, so looking at a finite element model here on the left, to anticipate what we think might happen when we're placing these shear wave devices on a tendon and actually looking at tissue behavior. And then comparing that, hopefully in the future, to experimental data where we could work with local clinicians to deal with any kind of tissue defects, scarring, anything like that, to actually see how people are recovering and when they recover function in different regions of a tendon or ligament, as opposed to just looking for a bulk recovery of strength about the knee or strength about the ankle. And then the last project that I hinted towards was looking at postoperative analysis of surgical patients like ACL reconstruction cases. And this is something that I'm planning to do kind of in a twofold manner, one being ex vivo cadaveric studies. So this is a car manufacturing robot, doesn't really match what I'm talking about yet, but what we do with this is we can actually instrument 6 degree of freedom load cells on the end of the 6DOF robotic system. And with that, we can attach it to cadaveric knees. In this case, we've got a porcine knee joint. And then we're able to manipulate the knee, replicate clinical exams or gait metrics, and then actually look at the specific loading in each individual tissue. And what I would plan to do is combine that with some in vivo studies to actually look at how the tissue loads compare when we're doing these robotic replications of movements relative to how people are actually recovering after they have surgical interventions or injuries, such as having ACL tears or ACL reconstructions. And this is just a actual picture of one of our lovely lab assistants from my postdoc lab running with one of the shear wave tensiometers on our IT band. So we can imagine that would be kind of a case where we would be measuring maybe a graft tissue after someone had had a reconstruction. And so with that super brief kind of overview, I've got some contact info if anyone is interested in getting in touch, either about any of the project areas I've talked about or just general work in the area. I've got my email, Twitter, and then I have my office location. I'm over on Star Campus. So thank you very much.